The flight was quiet, until one passenger rolled up her sleeve. A tattoo inked on her arm caught the eyes of several men in uniform, battle-hardened Navy SEALs. And to everyone's surprise, they stood up and saluted her. Who was she, and why did a simple tattoo command the respect of America's most elite warriors? The hum of the engines was steady, almost soothing. Passengers flipped through magazines, adjusted their seats, and tapped away on glowing screens. It was an ordinary flight, at least that's how it seemed. Near the middle rows sat a woman, quiet, reserved, dressed casually in jeans and a plain sweater. Nothing about her stood out. She could have been anyone. A student, a mother, a business traveler heading home. But then, with a simple motion, everything changed. As the cabin warmed, she pushed her sleeve up. On her arm, dark ink caught the dim cabin light. It wasn't just any tattoo. It was a symbol that only a few would instantly recognize. 3 rows back, a man in uniform glanced at her arm, then froze. His posture stiffened. His eyes narrowed, not in suspicion but in recognition. He nudged the man sitting beside him, another soldier. Their eyes locked on the tattoo, and in an instant, their casual demeanor vanished. These weren't just any soldiers. They were Navy SEALs. Men trained to notice details, men who had seen combat, men who rarely broke composure in public. And yet, what happened next was something no one on that flight expected. One of the SEALs stood. Slowly, deliberately, the other followed. And then, right there in the narrow aisle of the plane, they brought their hands to their brows and gave her a crisp salute. The cabin went silent. Passengers shifted in their seats, confused. Some thought maybe it was a prank. Others assumed it was some kind of inside joke. But the faces of the SEALs said otherwise. This was real. This was respect. The woman looked up, startled at first. Then her expression softened. She nodded quietly, acknowledging their gesture. A gesture not easily earned. For those who didn't know, it was just an awkward moment on a flight. But for the few who understood, that tattoo was more than ink. It was a story written in blood, sacrifice, and brotherhood. It was a mark tied to history, loss, and unshakable loyalty. Why would the most elite warriors in the U.S. military salute a stranger? What did that tattoo represent? The answer lies in the world of military tattoos, symbols that carry weight far beyond their designs. In the culture of the SEALs, certain marks aren't just personal choices. They are sacred reminders. Some honor fallen comrades. Some represent missions so dangerous they are whispered about, never fully explained. And some, like the one on that woman's arm, carry a legacy powerful enough to bring battle-hardened men to their feet. This moment on the flight was just the beginning. To understand why the SEALs saluted, we need to step into their world. A world where ink is not fashion but memory. Not decoration but tribute. For most people, tattoos are art. A way to express personality, beliefs, or memories. But in the world of the military, especially among special operations like the Navy SEALs, tattoos often mean something far deeper. They are stories etched into skin, reminders of battles fought, brothers lost, and promises kept. To the untrained eye, the tattoo on that woman's arm might have looked like just another design. But to the SEALs, it was unmistakable. It bore the insignia of a fallen unit, a team that had made the ultimate sacrifice. Symbols like these are rarely worn lightly. They are earned through bloodlines, legacies, or direct ties to those who served. Military tattoos often serve as living memorials. When a SEAL loses a teammate, the grief doesn't vanish when the funeral ends. It lingers, and one of the ways they keep that bond alive is through ink. A set of coordinates marking the site of a last mission. A date that will never be forgotten. A trident, sometimes small and discreet, sometimes bold and defiant, etched where it will always be seen. Every line carries meaning. Every symbol is chosen with intent. For many SEALs, the tattoo is not just about personal identity. It's about loyalty. The kind of loyalty that says, I will never forget you. I will carry you with me wherever I go. That is why, when those SEALs saw the woman's tattoo, they didn't see art. They saw a code. a silent signal that spoke louder than words. She belonged to their brotherhood in some way. Sometimes, the person wearing the tattoo is a veteran themselves. Other times, it's a family member who carries the ink in remembrance of a son, a father, or a husband who never came home. And in this case, the woman's tattoo seemed to carry that weight. A reminder of sacrifice that the seals could not ignore. In military culture, respect isn't handed out freely. It's not about rank or titles or appearances. It's about shared struggle, pain, and the bonds that outlive the battlefield. A salute, especially one given outside of protocol, is not casual. It's not something SEALs do lightly. It's a statement, one that says, we see you and we honor what you carry. The passengers on that flight may not have known the history. They couldn't decode the design or understand why trained warriors would break silence to salute a civilian. But in the SEAL community, the meaning was clear. The tattoo wasn't just ink. It was legacy. And behind every legacy, there's a story. Who was this woman? What did she carry with her that could draw such a profound response? The answer would reveal a connection more powerful than anyone on that plane could have imagined. The passengers whispered among themselves, curious about the sudden salute. But the woman stayed calm, almost humble, as though she had been through this before. She gave the SEALs a faint smile, one touched with sadness. The truth was simple yet powerful. The tattoo wasn't hers in the way most people think. It wasn't about her own service, her own missions, or her own medals. It was about someone she loved. Years earlier, she had been the wife of a Navy SEAL. He wasn't just any SEAL. He was part of a legendary unit, a man respected by his brothers for his bravery and his quiet strength. He had deployed more times than she cared to count, and each time she watched him leave, she knew there was a chance he might not return. One day, that chance became reality. Her husband was killed in action during a mission that remained classified, a story known only to those who served alongside him. For the outside world, there were no details, just the folded flag, the official condolences, and the silence that follows when the nation moves on but the family is left with the empty chair at the dinner table. For her, forgetting wasn't an option. She had promised him, long ago, that if the worst ever happened, she would carry his memory in a way no one could erase. And so, she had his unit's tattoo inked onto her arm. Not as decoration, not as fashion, but as a permanent vow. You will never be forgotten. You will always fly with me. That was the tattoo the SEALs recognized. They didn't need explanations. They didn't need to ask questions. They knew the symbol. They knew the story it told. When they stood and saluted her, it wasn't just respect for her husband. It was respect for her. For the quiet strength it takes to live as a SEAL's wife. For the resilience required to carry on after the knock at the door. For the choice to bear the weight of memory not in silence, but in a mark the whole world could see. In that moment the lines blurred. She wasn't just another passenger. She was a guardian of a legacy, the living reminder of a fallen brother. And for the SEALs on that flight, that made her one of them. The rest of the passengers would never truly understand what had just unfolded. To them, it was a brief interruption, an odd gesture on an ordinary flight. But to the men in uniform, and to the woman with the tattoo, it was something sacred. A moment where memory and respect collided at 30,000 feet. As the SEALs returned to their seats, the salute still lingered in the air, invisible yet undeniable. And the woman, staring out at the clouds, rested her hand on the tattoo, as if touching the ink kept her husband close. Some stories are too great to be spoken aloud. This was one of them,